Shalom! All praises to the Most High, Anoka said. Praise be to the earthly mother, the Pachamama, and all of her earthly angels, the Erkadeshoe. Praise be to the Holy Spirit, the Kahe, in the name of his only begotten Son, Motsah the Lamb, unification to the nation. Guys, this video is all of my videos, I give credit to the Most High, but I specifically asked the Most High to show me where Samaria was, what happened with the Northern Kingdom, what's going on. And, it took a few days for me to get an answer, but I feel like I've been getting an answer. Like he was gearing me up to the answer. Days went by, I had to meditate on this. Now I finally think I understand it. Because my brother, he told me the other day that he was looking at the Mayans and he was just like, well, they said that they disappeared. And I had to think about it. And I was just like, wait a minute. Maybe there's some truth to this. So let me look into it. And now I know why they quote unquote disappeared. It all makes sense. So I'm very excited to bring this video to you. I hope that we are edified as a nation to now understand what happened to the 10 tribes. So first, I want to give a big shout out to my man, UBTV. Oh my goodness, man. That America is Egypt 9? Bro. I'm gonna wait to release the video that I do on the 10 tribes on the Gypsies in India until he releases this video. I'm just out of respect, But look what he says. In this episode, we investigate the history of the so-called Egyptians of Europe from 1427 to 1900, excuse me. Why were these people being called Egyptian? And were they really from Egypt? And how are these people connected to the Mayan civilization? Fantastic video, man. Fantastic video. But we're going to get back to that because the Gypsies are connected to India, but also to the Mayans. The Mayans disappeared. However, not all of the Mayans disappeared. There's still a group of people that flourished in Mesoamerica. We know them as the Nephites. Oh man, I'm excited, man. But anyway, a while ago I did these two videos on the Euphrates River, right? And I believe that the Euphrates River has to do with the Pacific Ocean. But I also think that the Euphrates River is also the Mississippi. But I also think the Euphrates River is this narrow river right here. Pretty much the four rivers, they're supposed to flow out of, the North Pole. I know some people think that the Garden of Eden is here. I don't think so, man. Just according to the native mythology, they look towards this place as the place of origin or everything coming out of it. And when you look at old maps, they have the North Pole with 4 rivers flowing out of it. So I'm guessing this river, the Euphrates River, the Great River Euphrates, is the river that's kind of flowing throughout the Americas. And all of these narrow pathways would be considered the Euphrates. So that would include the Mississippi, right? And plus the Euphrates, that's just the name that was given. That's a name that was given after the Egyptian captivity, because Genesis was written after the Egyptian captivity. So we're going to pretty much examine this concept again about the Bering Strait, because we went over this too. That the Bering Strait had to do with the Euphrates River. The Strait of Anguilla. We're going to get into all this, man. So I'm excited. But if you guys want, you can check out these 2 videos before you watch the rest of this video. So the Mayans disappeared. How did the Mayans disappear? And then, everyone's confused. Why did the civilization just up and leave? So I wanted to read this article real quick. Why did the Maya abandon their cities? Oh, it's kind of freezing up. The ancient Maya, whose early settlements date back to about 2000 BC, lived in present-day southern Mexico and northern Central America. As a civilization, they are recognized for their sophisticated calendar systems and hieroglyphic writing, as well as their achievements in such areas such as agriculture and architecture. Around 25 AD, the Maya entered what's now known as the Classic Pyramid period. Okay, well, whatever. The Mayan are much older than that, but anyway, their cities flourished, right? However, by the end of the Classic period, around whatever, almost all of the major cities, in what was then the heart of the Mayan civilization, the southern lowlands region, in present-day North Guatemala and neighboring portions of Mexico, Belize, and Honduras, had been abandoned. The collapse didn't happen all at once. Instead, it is believed to occur over time from place to place. Wow. Scholars have suggested a number of potential reasons for the downfall of Mayan civilization in the southern lowlands, including overpopulation, environmental degradation, warfare, shifting trade routes, and extending drought. It's likely that a complex combination of factors was behind the collapse. What is certain is that the Mayans didn't disappear in the aftermath of the collapse. Instead, listen to this, the cities in the northern lowlands region, such as Chichen Itza and later Mayapan, both located in present-day Yucatan and Mexico, rose to prominence. You see that? So let's go. So pretty much they abandoned their cities up here, but they were still thriving down here. What did the Book of Mormon say? The Jaredites were up here. Jaredites were up here. And the Jaredites, they got invaded by either the Canaanites or the Chaldeans or both. The Nephites came over here and thrived. And then they slowly pushed out everyone else. Well, they didn't fully push out everyone else. This was like everyone's pretty much fighting for this land right here. That's what it really seems like. Or I hope that I'm not confusing anyone. So you have two groups of Mayans, because they're saying, oh, well, the Mayans, they never really left. They just came down here and thrived. No. The Mayans left. But another group of the same exact people came here and thrived. So they can't even tell the difference between these Mayans and the Mayans who thrived down here around the Yucatan Peninsula. Let's keep going. Whoops. Let's come down here. Or up here, I should say. The Nahuas are a group of indigenous people of Mexico and El Salvador, historically also present in parts of Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. The Nahua comprise the largest indigenous group in Mexico and second largest group in El Salvador. The Aztecs were of Nahua ethnicity, and the Toltecs are often thought to have been as well. Their Nahuan languages, or Nahuatl, consist of many variants, several of which are multi-unintelligible. Okay. About 1.5 million Nahuas speak Nahuatl, and another million speak only Spanish. Less than 1,000 native speakers of Nahuatl remain in El Salvador. It is suggested that the Nahua peoples originated in Oriental America. And where's that? This is where it is. The southwest of the Americas. Now, what is that? Atzland, where they say they came from. So they come from Atzland, right? All right. Well, we're gonna keep reading. Now let's move down. Pre-conquest period. Archaeological, historical, and linguistic evidence suggests that the Nahua originally came from the deserts of northern Mexico and migrated into central Mexico in several waves. The presence of the Mexicanero people, who speak a Nahuatl variant, in this area until present day affirms this theory. So they're saying that people in that area that they left from still speak a variant of Nahuatl, right? So that's very interesting. But wait a minute, how come these people? Why would these people stay in these lands? What first of all, what triggered them to come to central Mexico? What triggered them to want to do that? Why were they wandering around in these lands the whole time? Why did they say that they were supposed to wander? If you look in their history, they say that that they were wandering here until they went into their promised land. But this happened two times because what happened? They got kicked out. They got kicked out because they were being wicked. They got kicked out during the Assyrian captivity, right? And they wanted to come back, but people were inhabiting their land, so they just stayed up here until it was right to come back to their original lands. I hope this is making sense. I'm going to put it all together in the end. Let me see. I think that was about it. Yeah, that was about it for that part. So I looked up Samaria, right? Now I'm just gonna read this. Like, don't get offended. It's the international version. But actually, no. I'm just gonna go to the New King James version. I just don't like the King James version. Like, I just don't like it, bro. I don't like it. Not that this is any better. I just don't like reading it. But pretty much, they had a civil war here, right? The Israelites had a civil war. King Omri was the victor, and he established what is now known as Sumeria. He brought the hill of Samaria from Shemer for 2 talents of silver. Then he built on the hill and called the name of the city which he built Samaria. I didn't actually look, to look if there was a hill. So I might put that in the comment section if I find it before I release this video. So obviously there's been a lot of takedowns and overthrows in Sumeria, right? That sounds just like northern Mexico, right? But look at this. All these people, they had idols everywhere. What are the Aztecs known for? Idols. Because they're the same people. They're the same people who got kicked out and came back. Are they all the same people? Because no, it's Samaria now. So they're going to be a little bit mixed up with the other nations. But for the most part, the people in Mexico look like all the other Indians. So I think those people are mainly Israelites. Absolutely. Let me see. Because I wanted to read some scriptures about Samaria a little bit. Okay, we have Amos chapter 8, verse 14. In that day, the loving young women, the young men as well, will faint from thirst. Those who swear by the guilt of Samaria and say, as surely as your God lives, O Dan, or as surely as the way of Beersheba lives, they will fail or fall, never to rise again. Now this is a very interesting story. So the Most High, he's comparing these two women to Israel and Judah. And you have Oholah and you have Oholiba. And Judah was more righteous than Israel, but they were still relatively wicked. They just weren't as wicked. So the Most High was a bit harder on the Northern Kingdom, especially since they started to mix in with the other nations. But Judah eventually did it as well. So it's not like they were any better. As I showed you already, The people of Peru have heavy maternal Canaanite DNA, and that's just not what was supposed to happen. So I'm not gonna read this actually. I just wanted to mention it. You have Micah chapter 1, verse 7. All of her carved images will be smashed into pieces. What does that sound like? All her wages will be burned in the fire, and I will destroy all her idols. Since she collected the wages of a prostitute, they will be used again on a prostitute. Now we're going to go into the conquest of Samaria by the Assyrians. 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 24 to 41. Then the king of Samaria brought people from Babylon, Cutha, Ava, Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they took possession of Samaria and dwelt in its cities. Wait a minute. So the king of Assyria took away the children of Israel, right? And had other people dwell in them. What did he just say here? How we didn't get to that part, so hold on, let me stop moving so fast. But you had other people dwell in the cities of Samaria, right? So they spoke to the king of Assyria. No, I'm sorry, I moved up. And it was so at the beginning of their dwelling there, that they did not fear the Lord. Therefore the Lord sent lions among them, which killed some of them. So they spoke to the king of Assyria, saying, the nations whom you have removed and placed in the cities of Samaria do not know the rituals of God of the land. Therefore he has sent lions among them, and indeed they are killing them because they do not know the rituals of the God of the land. What did it say here? That they died from a bunch of natural causes. The land was sweeping them off. That's what happened to the Mayans and their disappearance. Then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, send there one of the priests whom you brought from there. Let him go and dwell there, and let him teach them the rituals of the God of the land. Then one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel, and taught them how they should fear the Lord. So you had people from the northern kingdom come back there, mixed in with the inhabitants, start, doing a bunch of wickedness, right? So it's not like the Israelites weren't in these lands, but they were now a mixed stock of people, right? However, every nation continued to make gods of its own and put them in the shrines on the high places which the Samaritans had made, every nation in their cities where they dwelt. The men of Babylon made Succoth, Benoth. The men of Cuth made Nergal. The men of Hamath made Eshima. And the Avites made, listen to this. And the Sepharvites burned their children in fire to the Canaanite gods, right? So these sound like Canaanites to the god. So these are their gods. They burn their children in the fire. That sounds like Canaanites. So the Sepharvaim, and that sounds like Sephardim, sounds like the so-called Jews, which makes sense why they would have this knowledge about the ancient Mayans, because they used to be in these lands, and then they got kicked out. It makes sense why they made a story about Star Wars with the lightsabers, and the Mayans were the ones who had the lightsabers before. So they feared the Lord, and from every class they appointed for themselves priests of the high places, who sacrificed for them in the shrines of the high places. They feared the Lord, yet served their own gods, according to the rituals of the nations from among whom they were carried away. So there you go. The Israelites, they came back into the lands, right? But they were being wicked. It was mixed with wickedness now. And that's pretty much what went down. To this day, they continue practicing the former rituals. They do not fear the Lord, nor do they follow their statutes or their ordinances, or the law and commandment which the Lord commanded the children of Jacob, whom he named Israel, with whom the Lord had made a covenant and charged them, saying, You shall not fear other gods, nor bow down to them, nor serve them, nor sacrifice to them. But the Lord, who brought you up from the land of Egypt with great power and an outstretched arm, him you shall fear, him you shall worship, and to him you shall offer sacrifice. And the statutes, the ordinances, the law, and the commandment which he wrote for you, you shall be careful to observe forever. You shall not fear other gods, and the covenant that I have made with you, you shall not forget. And you shall fear the other gods, and you shall not fear the other gods. But the Lord your God you shall fear, and he shall deliver you from the hand of all your enemies. However, they did not obey, but they followed their former rituals. So these nations feared the Lord, yet served their carved images. Also their children and their children's children have continued doing as their fathers did, even to this day. So again, they're a mixed stock of people. There's some Canaanites in the mix, Israelites in the mix, right? That's what Samaria is, even to this day, right? And I have some of this. We're gonna get into this. I don't know. Do I want to? I'll see if I have to get into this or not. Got the thumbnails, pictures, but look, this is what I wanted to show you. Who were the Samaritans mixed with, or the Samaritans mixed with? The Samaritans were a blend of all kinds of people made up of Israelites who were not exiled when the northern kingdom was destroyed, according to them during that time, of various different nationalities whom the Assyrians had resettled in the area. And I'm pretty sure this is how the Assyrians looked. And you can see the similarities in how some of the northern kingdom looks. Right? Making sense? Now these are the Phoenicians. And you can see that they look very similar. And these are a mixed stock of people. They're not just one group of people. They're a bunch of different people. So, hey, that's pretty much what it is, man. Let me see. Now, I'm going to show you exactly why the Euphrates River it has to be in the Americas. It has to be. Because it never said that they left the Euphrates River. It says after they left, the region was called Arzareth, right? Now, this person's kind of a fool because I don't think he realized that he snitched on himself. But we're going to read this. That they might there keep their statutes where they never kept in their own land, and they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passes of the river. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely 1.5 years, and the same region is called Arzareth. Acosta is of the opinion that these words thus produced by many make in truth against this conjecture, and that for 2 reasons. The 10 tribes went so far to keep their statutes and ceremonies, but these Indians observed none of them, being given up to all idolatries. And is this at all consequent? Such was their purpose. Therefore, the success must not be answerable. It is likely they should be so tenacious and a fair and foreign land that never kept them in their own. As the next words express, his second argument is of like force, for it is not said that Euphrates in America be contiguous, or places so near one the other, much less that the entries of the river should stretch to the Indies. But he tells of a very long journey taken by them. So this person who wrote this, who's saying this, who's making the claim that, the Indians are the 10 tribes, he's making the claim that the Euphrates River and America are contiguous. And what does that mean? Let me make sure I'm saying that right. Contiguous. I'm sorry, but it means being in actual contact, touching along a boundary or a point. So they're touching. The Euphrates and the Americas are touching. And it has to be a narrow path, the narrow way of the Euphrates. The narrow way of the Euphrates. What are we talking about, man? Are we talking about all these narrow rivers in Canada? Are we talking about that? And now it would make sense if it would take them a year and a half to pretty much, you know, come from here, go through here, or whatever route they took, and to end up out here. Now, there's a reason why I'm putting them out here. I'm putting them in Siberia or Russia or wherever. There's a reason why. Let's get to it. Now this is an old map that, you know, they ain't trying to show. But this map shows exactly where Arzareth is. Remember, the Euphrates River is contiguous to the Americas, right? And that's why we see Arzareth right here, right next to the Americas. It's right here. This is Arzareth. The Northern Kingdom pretty much went up here and then scattered throughout Asia. This is the picture that I drew. So, maybe Assyria was here in Europe, maybe it was here. I don't know, but either way, they traveled through Canada, ended up right here. From here, they must have traveled to Japan, scattered to India, became the Gypsies. The Gypsies went to the Middle East, scattered from the Middle East into Africa and Europe. But initially, they were already scattered in Asia. Now, I circled these parts because these are places that they kind of settled. I should have circled this part as well because they seem to have settled up here. Some people came back, settled back in Jerusalem, as it says in the scriptures. They settled in Japan, absolutely. They settled in Atzland, right? They scattered across the Pacifics. You know, India went to East Africa, you know, because the Shona tribe, they claim to be Issachar. So, you know, the only way that Issachar could be there is if they migrated from here. So, and of course, that's only a piece of the tribes. You see all these tribes in Africa. Why? Because they went there. But they didn't initially go there. They went to Asia because they said that they came from a land in the east. Are they talking about the Middle East? Okay, where did they come from before then? Because all the Israelite stuff, all the knowledge and stuff, is all in Asia because that's where they went. I hope this is making sense now. And even in the Book of Mormon, when it talks about the route that the Jaredites took, it said that he would lead them to the promised land, but if they didn't, you know, keep the commandments, then he would sweep them off the lands. And it came to pass that the Lord commanded them that they should go forth into the wilderness, yea, into that quarter where they had never man been, right? So what quarter is that? They keep trying to say that that the Mayans, because these are the Mayans as well, the Olmec were the Mayans, technically, right? They keep trying to say that, oh, they came from China. No. Oh, yeah, initially they came from China, but they also went to China. Now this is showing Japan, my bad, but they said pretty much in this little segment that I had that people came from China. And they said that, oh, they're a big mix of Carthaginians and West African slaves, because they're talking about the Olmec, and they're a bunch of racists. But this is the stuff that they find here. See? They find the Assyrians here. They find the Assyrians here because the Assyrians came and ruled over this spot. And then the Assyrians came. My dad's being hella loud, but the Assyrians came and started battling, you know, against Judah. So if you have the wars between the Inca and the Mayan, what type of Mayans? What type of Mayans, bro? Now, I wanted to get to this. I hope I'm not confusing anyone. I'm going to try to bring it together at the end. They really didn't save my spot.
January 2017.
I can remember it, though. I'm only going to this because he says something very pertinent. Because I didn't know this before. And the reason why they try to say that the Book of Mormon events, like, they only happen in North America, because they're going by their white giants. Like, they say, oh, well, the white giants were here, so that means that the Book of Mormon events took place here. That's why they say it. Now look what he says.
The Algonquin Native American history, they say that their ancient ancestors also sailed somewhere from the east, came down through the St. Lawrence Seaway up in Canada, and arrived in the Great Lakes area.
That's why I say, I think that Assyria might be like in Europe. And it's funny because Big Judah made a video talking about how, they're finding accounts that could have only happened among the Assyrians in Europe. And the Assyrians are pretty much, the sea line of Cain, as it seems. Haplogroup Q. I keep telling people, how did all of these people populate this big continent, right? They populate this big continent, and they just came from here? That doesn't even make sense, bro. Does that really make sense? They came from all the way over here, right? And then they just populate the rest of this. How about some of them went here? Like, that doesn't even make sense, man. But lastly, I wanted to touch on the half tribes, like the 2.5 tribes that are on the other side of the world. And half the tribe of Manasseh dwelt in the land, and they increased from Bashan unto Baal Hermon to Senir unto Mount Hermon. I don't know where Mount Hermon is, but it's on that side of the world, as it seems, because the Atlantic is the Jordan. So, and these were the heads of the house of their fathers, and they transgressed against the God of their fathers, and went whoring after the gods of the people of the land, whom God destroyed before them. So they ruled over Africa, and then they started doing serving the African gods and stuff, right? And I don't know if half the tribe of Manasseh is in Africa. I don't know, but and the god of, actually no, it's not, because they're next to Chinnerith, and that sounds like they're close to China. Not in China, maybe in India, Kamari Kingdom, I don't know. And the God of Israel stirred up the spirit of Pul, the king of Assyria, and the spirit of Tilgath-Pilneser, king of Assyria, and he carried them away, even the Reubenites and the Gadites and half the tribe of Manasseh, and brought them to Halal and Habur and Hara and to the river Gozan unto this day. So that's why it didn't really make sense that the Assyrian captivity that the 10 tribes went to was here, because why would they carry these people who were in this area? Why would they carry them all the way here? Why not carry them somewhere on this side of the world, right? Wherever that is, I don't know. But somehow they ended up back into the Americas, traveled, through the Euphrates, went to Asia. Now, the most likely place that can happen is Europe. So, let's recap. Guys. So, pretty much the lands of Israel, right? They're pretty much this area, stretching all the way down to about like down here. And then, of course, you have other lands in other places, but I'm only talking about the Americas right now. Now, the Assyrians swoop in, start slowly taking them down, took them down here, took them down here, took them down here, took them down here, right? Now, or maybe they didn't take them down here, I don't know. Maybe the Jaredites were here. I don't know, man. I don't know. But the point is that, absolutely, I think Samaria was here. I think Bethel is here. And this area is not really mountainous, but this is more mountainous. A little bit more mountainous. So I can see a mountain here. I would have to look that up. But, so the Assyrians take over their lands. They carry them to Assyria, wherever that is. Might be here, might be somewhere else, I don't know. but they carried them away into a different land, brought other people, right, to inhabit their lands, but they're wicked as hell. So the Most High sends a bunch of lions to eat them. So they bring Israelites back to inhabit these places, so that they can maintain being in the land, right? Now they've mixed in the Israelite stuff with the paganism and whatever else, right? And that's pretty much what they were about, all into idolatry and things of the sort, right? Now I'm sure you had Israelites come back, break out of captivity, right? Kick the Assyrians out, right? But this land is still inhabited. Samaria is still inhabited. So anyone who wants to keep the law, they're not going to want to go back to these lands. They're going to pretty much wander around the desert. Until when? Until the Most High gives them the go-ahead. And the go-ahead was them to come back and see an eagle eating a snake. And that is when they can move back into their lands. See? Then they move back in waves because their brothers tell them, oh, it's safe to come. We saw the prophecy. We finally saw the prophecy. Let's move back into our lands. Right? Now, the other 10 tribes, they broke out of the Assyrian captivity, right? They traveled through the Euphrates, came to Never Man Dwelt, the same place that the Jaredites came from a place that Never Man Dwelt, went to a place that Never Man Dwelt, right? And, they became a great nation in Asia. Then they got overthrown. I haven't really looked into Asia that well, but it seems like they got overthrown and hijacked, and now the invaders are acting like they were always there when they weren't there. We are the original Asian people, right? They scatter. They come as the Nagas, right? They come back. They come from the Mayan captivity. They come as the Mayans because they are the Mayans. They come to India and other places as the Nagas, the serpent kings, right? And then they scatter because they pretty much lose everything. Probably got conquered here, and they scatter. They're wanderings. They're wandering. They're known as the Gypies, and among other things. Second Bantu expansion. I don't know. So that's pretty much what happened. And then you had other people, the children of Joseph come back here, right? Now, for the Book of Mormon events, Lehi and Nephi, they pretty much land here, I guess right here, Guatemala. Then they expand. They expand to the east coast of North America because Nephi has contracted this entire land. He has contracted this whole thing. The Most High gave us the rest of this land, and he just wanted everyone to come from all over the world and come back to just this one land so we can be separate from the other nations. He just wanted to give us this whole piece of land. And that's where we are. So, the majority of us here were Israelites. I've said that so many times. I just don't say everyone here were Israelites, because that's not true either. Now up north, you have, in this area, is a mixture of people now. Because after they're wandering, you don't think any of them went up here and dwelt with the white Indians or whatever, mixed in with them, right? Same thing here, mixed in with the Japhites. But the majority of us, we inhabited the Americas closer to the equator, right? West coast of the Americas, later on the East Coast, the islands, right? Stretching all the way down here to the point where we pushed people out of this land because we were contracted these lands. So I hope that you guys got something out of this. Let me know what you guys think, if you have anything to add. But in the finale, we're going to get into the I guess what I call the Neo-Mayans or the Nephites. May peace be with you. Selah Kalah.